guys, so for this tutorial you're going to want a base yarn. I'm using white. You can use whatever color you want for this. This is going to be the main part of our top. Using this brand, this is very old. I got it from somebody, so they probably don't sell this anymore, but this is just an off-white acrylic yarn. Any kind of yarn will work for this. If you want to use cotton yarn, you can do that too. I'm just using acrylic, so this is going to be my base color. And then for the sunflowers, you're going to want like a golden yellow color and a brown color. This will be the center of the sunflower, and of course this will be the petals. These are both just Red Heart Super Savers. This is the color Coffee. This is the color Saffron. You're also of course going to want a pair of scissors, and it'll be helpful if you have a stitch marker as well. I just have these little ones. You could also use a spare piece of yarn if you don't have stitch markers, or like a safety pin or something will work as well. And of course you're going to want a crochet hook. I'm using a 5.5mm hook today. So for today's video I am going to be showing you how to make this in a size large. If you want different sizing info, the written pattern will be linked in the description box below, where you could purchase it on my Etsy shop. But it's pretty customizable. If the pattern or this doesn't exactly fit your needs, you can kind of take your measurements and get kind of an exact size for yourself. So I'm going to start by making a slip stitch, and we're just going to put this onto our hook. This is your main background color, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain 16 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we have 16 chains on our hook, and now we're going to go ahead and just single crochet all the way to just one before the end. So you're going to single crochet in everything except for that last one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to single crochet in the first chain from the hook. You don't want to go into this stitch that's on the hook because it won't work. So I'm just going to go in here, and we're just going to single crochet 1. Alright, now I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, leaving the last stitch. So do the 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went ahead and single crocheted in every stitch except for that last one there, because in this last stitch we're going to do 3 single crochets. So I'm just going to go 1, and 2, and 3. Alright, so now you should have something that looks like this, and you'll have 3 single crochets in the last stitch. Now this is where your stitch marker is going to come in handy, so I'm going to go ahead and in that 3 single crochets we did in the top stitch, I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to put it into the center one, so it'll be like the second one from your hook, but I'm just going to make a mark there because that's going to be our center point. So it should look something like that. And now we're just going to go ahead, instead of like going back, we're going to flip it, and we're going to go ahead and single crochet back along the bottom of that chain. So make sure you don't go into the stitch, you go into the next stitch. So I'm just going to do a single crochet, and we're going to single crochet all the way down. And I am just crocheting over my tail here, so I'm just kind of holding it, if you could see. And I'm just going underneath, I'm going into the stitch underneath the tail, picking up my working yarn, and then crocheting over like you normally would, but I'm just kind of crocheting over to weave that in so I don't have to weave in the ends later. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just trim off that tail. Now that I weaved it in, we don't really need it anymore. Perfect. Okay. And now you should have something that looks like this. This is going to be the starting of our cup. This will be the top. That's the bottom. You should have 15 stitches on each side and then one in the center for a total of 31 stitches all the way around. But this essentially is going to be about the center point of your cup, and this is going to be the bottom of your cup. So if you want to take your measurements, you would kind of just measure from like where you want the bottom of the cup to sit and where you want the center of the cup to sit, and that should give you kind of an idea on how long you want to make this, and then you could just like measure your chain. So this counts as one row. It's not going to be like traditional crochet where you'd count this as like 2 rows. You're going to count this as 1 row, and then when you go around in a U shape, that'll be row 2. You're going to go back around row 3 and so on and so forth. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do the row 2. So we're going to take our work and we're just going to flip it. You don't have to chain 1 or anything. We're just going to turn it. And you're going to go back into this first stitch here, and we're just going to do a single crochet all the way down to our stitch marker. So again, I'm just single crocheting all the way down. Alright, so I finished crocheting up to my stitch marker here. I just crocheted all the way up the side here, so now we're going to go ahead in the space where our stitch marker is. We're going to crochet 3 single crochets again and then just continue down the side. So I'm just going to remove my stitch marker, and I'm going to put 3 single crochets into that next stitch. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker back into that center stitch from the 3 single crochets we just did, just to hold my spot so I know where the center is pretty easy. And now I'm just going to single crochet back down this top part. Okay, now this is what it should look like after you've completed 2 rows. So you're just going to do that same process where you just go back and forth doing 3 single crochets in the center stitch for a total of, so for a size large, I'm going to do a total of 18 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and do 16 more of these and be right back to show you the finished product. Okay, I just finished the first cup here. So this is what it should look like. I'm going to go ahead and cut off my tail, just leave a couple inches, and just pull that through to fasten it off. But you don't need the stitch marker anymore. But this is what it's kind of going to look like. This is what it should look like. It has a little curvature, so it's won't sit flat, but here's what your cup should look like. So now I'm going to go ahead and repeat these same steps to make a second cup, but this time I'm not going to fasten off. We're going to leave it attached to the yarn. Okay, you guys, I now have both of my cups made. Just going to remove that stitch marker. So we have both of our cups made, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect these two. So I left my second cup on the hook still so that I could use my working yarn to crochet across the bottom. So I'm going to set this second cup aside for now. And basically, I'm going to flip my work so that my hook is on this side here. And I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet across the bottom till I get to like the last stitch here. So I'm going to single crochet across the bottom. There's not a specific number. You're just going to want to evenly space them. I try to like do them, you can kind of see like little spaces where each row is, so I try to do the single crochets at the end of kind of like each row. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And again, I'm just kind of going into the spaces that I see. Alright, so now it should look something like this. We just crocheted along that bottom edge of our cup. And now I'm going to go ahead and take this, the first single crochet from like the side panel. I'm going to go ahead and just insert my hook into that. So just put my hook right in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and take my other cup here, and I'm going to go into that first single crochet stitch right there, and I'm going to go ahead and just insert my hook into that stitch as well. So just like that. Now you're going to have the 3 stitches on your hook, and you're just going to finish off your single crochet as you normally would. Just yarn over, and I'm going to pull through all 3 of my stitches. And now your cups will be connected, and I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet along the bottom edge of that second cup, evenly spacing them just like I did for the first one. So again, I'm just going into those rows where I see the little like spaces. Alright, so I just finished crocheting all across the bottom edge of the top. So now it looks like this, and I'm going to go ahead and add some detailing along the bottom before we add on the granny squares. So I'm going to start off our little detailing with chaining 3. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to skip this first stitch here and double crochet into our second stitch. So you should have something that looks like this. Ignore this. I need to weave this end in. It's a little derpy, but you're going to have something that looks like that. And now we're going to go ahead and continue this by doing a chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So what that looks like is once we did that double crochet, we're going to go ahead and chain 1. Then we're going to skip this next stitch here and double crochet into the following one. So skip, double crochet, and you'll have something that starts to look a little bit like this. I'm going to keep going with my same pattern here. So chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet. And I'm just going to do this all the way across the bottom. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And it should start looking something like this. You'll have these little like squares going across the bottom. Now, if you're like me, you're probably going to have like one more stitch left over just because you might not have had an even number of single crochets across the bottom. It's totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up with another double crochet just right in that stitch, just so it's even. So it'll look something like that. You can't really tell that it doesn't follow the pattern, so it's fine. But now your top should look something like this. Now your top's going to look something like this so far. We're going to go ahead and set this aside for now. You can go ahead and fasten off right here. So I'm just going to cut a couple inch tail and pull that through. So now that's fastened off. And we're going to go ahead and work on our granny squares now. So this can be set aside and we're going to make the granny squares. Okay, to start our granny squares, we're going to take our brown yarn and I'm going to go ahead and just slip knot this onto my hook. Now you're going to want to start off the granny square by chaining 3. And for this we will be working in the round. So I went ahead and chained 3. Now you're going to want to go ahead and we're going to slip stitch into the first chain. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into our first chain, yarn over and just pull through both of those so that we create a magic circle. And now I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. And this is going to count as our first double crochet. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 7 more double crochets into our center here. So you're going to want to find the center of the circle you just made. And I'm going to go ahead, yarn over, and insert my hook just into the center of that circle here. If I can find it. Okay. And that'll be double crochet 1, and we're just going to keep doing that same thing till we have a total of 8 double crochets. So once you should have your chain 2 and then 7 double crochets. Once you have this, we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into this chain 2, the beginning chain 2, and we're going to go ahead and just slip stitch those 2 together, and then you'll have a completed circle. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my stitch marker just so I know where the beginning of that circle is. Now we're going to start the second round of our brown. So I'm going to just go ahead and chain 2. So 1, 2. And you're going to want to go ahead and do a double crochet into that same stitch as the chain 2, so like right there. We're just going to insert our hook, pull through, and complete our double crochet. So you have something that looks like that. Now in the remaining stitches, we're going to go ahead and go around and do 2 double crochets in each stitch, and we should have a total of 16 double crochets once we get back to the beginning. So I'm just going to go ahead and insert my hook and do 2 double crochets in each stitch. So there we have 1 in that stitch, and I'm going to go back in the same stitch and do a second double crochet. It should look something like that, and we're just going to keep going. Now once we've completed the 16, we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into that chain 2 from the beginning. So just right there. And now you're not going to pull through, you're just going to leave that there, and we're going to go ahead and just cut off our yarn. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my yellow yarn now. And we're just going to add this onto our hook to change the color, so I just slip it right through, and then we complete our slip stitch with the yellow. And I'll just grab my tails here because we're going to weave them in. We're just going to crochet over them. So I pull those tight so everything's nice and tight like that. And now you're going to want to go ahead and chain 1. Should look like that. And now we're going to go ahead and do our petal stitches. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to yarn over, and we're going to stick it through the stitch that's directly below our chain 1. So just right in there. And you're going to pull through, and now we're not going to pull through that. We're going to go ahead, yarn over again, insert our hook through the same space, pull through, and then we're going to do that a total of 5 times. So we have done it 2 times already, so we're going to do it 3 more times. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So you should have a good amount of yarn loops on your hook now. So one more time we're going to yarn over, and this time we're going to pull through all of those loops on your hook. It can be kind of difficult. You just kind of gotta like wiggle your yarn through here. Alright, so then you should be able to pull up 1 loop, and we're just going to go ahead now and chain 1. So you should have something that looks like that. And now we're going to repeat the same petal stitch all the way around for all 16. So again, I'm going to yarn over, go through my little loop here. I'm also crocheting over my yarn, so pull through 1, pull through 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook. My tension's too tight, okay, and then chain 1. Alright, and again, yarn over, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, yarn over, pull through all the loopies, and chain 1. Alright, so once you get to this point and we've finished our petal clusters all the way around, we're going to go ahead into our first chain stitch, which is right there. Insert your hook, and again we're just going to leave those on the hook, don't pull through. So we're going to go ahead and cut our yarn. And you're going to go back to your main color. I was using white, so I'm going to keep using that. And again, I'm just going to change my color, so put this on my hook and pull through my stitches there. And grab my tails because we're going to yarn. We're going to crochet over our tails. Now we're going to go ahead and just chain 2. And now we're going to be working in these little chain 1 spaces between our petals. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 double crochets into that stitch on the next petal. So 1, 2, and 3. So you should now have 3 double crochets in that first chain, or in the first single crochet space between your petals. And now I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then we're going to do 3 more double crochets in that same spot. So now you should have something that looks like this. This is going to be the start of our first corner for the granny square. And now we're going to go to the next little single crochet spot between our next petals, and we're going to do 2 double crochets in that space. And you should have something that looks like this now. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 double crochets in the next 2 spaces as well. So we got the corner there, and then we got our 2 double crochet clusters, and we're going to do 1 more double crochet cluster in the next stitch. And this is what it should look like. We're starting out the square, you'll have your corner and then 3 double crochet clusters. Now we're going to go ahead and work our other corner here. So 3 double crochets in the same stitch. And we're going to chain 1. And then 3 double crochets in the same stitch again. Alright, and then as you can see, we're starting to get the first side of our square here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do 3 more of the 2 double crochet clusters. So 1, 2. So on my last side, I only did 2 of the 2 double crochets after the corner, because where our chain 2 was in the beginning is going to count for 1 double crochet. So we're just going to go into that same stitch that has our beginning chain 2, and we're going to go ahead and just do 1 double crochet, and then you're going to connect to the top of that beginning chain 2 just with a slip stitch. And now we've completed our first round of the granny square, and we're going to go ahead and do another round of the white. If you want to use a different color you can, but I'm going to keep using the white. So we're going to start this off with just doing a chain 2. Then we're going to work a double crochet into the same space as the chain 2. So just in there we're going to do a double crochet. And that's going to count for our first little cluster, because the beginning chain 2 counts as a double crochet. And we're going to move into our corner, and we're going to work a corner in there. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. We got our 3 double crochets, chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets in that same space. And there we have our first corner. And now we're going to work these 2 double crochet clusters in between our clusters from the previous round. So we're going to go right in there. Alright, so I'm going to work my 2 double crochets between my clusters here. Alright, so now you should have your corner and you should have 4 clusters between each corner. So I'm at the next corner, so I'm going to go ahead and work my 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets again, 4 2 double crochet clusters, corner, and we're just going to do it all the way around again. Alright, so once we get to our final side, this beginning stitch we did counts as one of the chain clusters, so we're only going to be doing 3 instead of 4 on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 double crochets between. And then in the next one, and then this will be our last one. Alright, so now we finished our second round of the granny square. We're going to go ahead and just slip stitch into that beginning space. And now we can go ahead and just trim a tail. Leave kind of a long one so you can crochet your granny squares together. But I'm just going to pull that off and fasten that off. But now you have a completed But now you should have one completed granny square. And I'm just going to show you kind of what's going on. I have 2 made already. So here's your top. And these are going to be connected. Here's our top, and these are going to be connected along the bottom edge here. We're going to like connect them. Kind of like that, and you're kind of just going to line them up and kind of get a rough idea of how many you're going to need. You'll want to measure around your rib cage to kind of decipher that, and also just kind of line them up with the bottom of this. I think I'm going to like line these up in the center, and then I might have a little bit of an overlap at the end here, but I'm going to add another one at the end just so it has some back coverage as well. And I'm not going to go for my full back just because I'm going to be doing a lace-up corset back. But yeah, you can really make as many of these as you want. I'm going to be making a total of 6 for the size large. All the other details will be in the pattern, the written pattern. But you can measure these squares and just take your measurements and figure out how many you need. You could even, if you want it to be less of a crop top, we could always you could make 2 rows of these, just make it a little bit longer so it's more of a tank top kind of thing. But yeah, it's really customizable. But I'm going to go ahead and make 4 more of these and then be right back to show you how we connect everything together. Alright, we got all 6 of our little sunflower squares now. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these all together. So we're just going to go like in a line and just sew the 2 sides together. So I'm just going to put the wrong sides together here. And I'm just going to use one of my tails that I have. Actually, no, I'm not. Then I'm going to grab my same color yarn and just do a, sorry, there's someone racing down the street. Do a slip knot onto my hook. And then I'm going to go ahead and just line these up. And I'm going to go into I'm going to start at the corner, like the corner single crochet. And I'm going to go into the back loop only. So let's zoom in a little more, okay? So I'm going into the what is this, single crochet? I'm going into the chain one corner piece, and I'm going to go into our back loop only, like that. And then I'm also going to take our bottom square, and I'm going to find that same spot in the corner and go into the front loop. It'll be the front loop, but it's actually the back loop, like that. So it should look something like that. But I went into both back loops, and now I'm just going to take my yarn and just pull through it using a slip stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that again in the next one, back loops only, and just do a slip stitch. We're just going to do this all the way across, making sure to do it in the back loops only. Now I'm just finishing off the final slip stitch into the last corner, and then I'm going to fasten off. So I tried to crochet over the ends, but I don't think it really worked. So you're gonna have something that looks like this when you're finished. And so as you can see, that's what our connection looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and just connect the other 4 of these, so we have one long strip. So I'm just going to keep connecting them side by side like this. Okay, I now have all 6 of my sunflowers crocheted together. Now I'm just going to go ahead and weave in the ends, and then I'll show you how to attach this to our top. Okay, so I weaved in some of my like weird ends, but I left the bottom ones because I'm just going to crochet over them as I attach it. So let's do this. So the center is between so I got the center of my strip of sunflowers, and I'm just going to line that up with the center of my top piece here. So just right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and start at the end here, and I'm just going to crochet along the bottom end, attaching the pieces using the same method I did to attach these. So we're just going to do some slip stitches to attach it. I'm going to use a clippy thing, stitch marker, to kind of just attach these. So I'm going to fold it over so the right sides are together, and I'm going to use my clip just to put the centers together so that I don't lose where my center is as I'm crocheting it. And you're going to want to kind of like stretch it a little bit to see where you can line up. So for me, this lines up kind of near the center of my second to last one, and that's where I'm going to start to crochet. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a slip stitch onto my hook again, and we're just going to insert our hook into the back loops. So we're going to go into the front loop actually of our bottom layer, which is the bralette top, and then we're going to go into the back loop of the sunflower, and then I'm just going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through all 3 of those to attach it. And then we're just going to keep going across the bottom here to do our stitches. So again, I'm just going into the front loops and then the back loop, and then we're just going to do a slip stitch. Okay, now that we have our sunflowers attached, we're going to go along the bottom edge of our sunflowers, and I'm just going to run a single crochet all the way across the bottom just to finish off this edge. And then we're also going to be doing another one of these square patterns on the bottom. But first I'm going to start off with my single crochets. So I just did a slip knot onto my hook, and I'm just going to go into that corner stitch of my square. So just the chain one stitch that's on the corner here. And I'm just going to start with a simple slip stitch just to get our thing attached here. And now we're just going to go across in our stitches here and do a single crochet all the way across. So I'm just going to go in here and start single crocheting. I'm just crocheting right over the tail here just so we have a little less ends to weave in at the end. And once you get to this corner space where the two meet, I'm going to go ahead and just put a single crochet into that corner space right there. Into that just corner stitch right there. We're just going to do a single crochet. And then I'm also going to put a single crochet kind of into this spot, like in the center where the two meet. Just a simple single crochet right there, and then I'm also going to single crochet in this other corner space on the next square. Now you should have somewhat of a smoother transition between the squares, and I'm just going to continue crocheting along the rest of the squares. Alright, so now that I've single crocheted across, on the bottom we're going to do another one of our chain 3. On the bottom we're going to do another one of our double crochet, chain 1, skip 1s. So I'm going to start off this row by just chaining 3. And then we're just going to flip our work. And I'm going to skip this first stitch here. Let me zoom in. I'm going to skip that first stitch right there and just go into the second stitch. And oops, we're going to do a double crochet, so yarn over. That's what it should look like. And now we're just going to go ahead, chain 1, skip the next stitch and do a double crochet. And we're just repeating this all the way across where we just chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So again, we're just chaining 1, skipping that stitch and going into this stitch with a double crochet. Alright, I'm at the end now, so I'm just going to do one more double crochet into that last stitch here. Just to finish off the row. And now I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. And now we're going to work on doing the just kind of finishing stitch all the way around the piece, and we're also going to make the straps. So I'm going to do this, you could do this in the white color or whatever your main color is, but I'm going to do it in yellow just to give it a little pop. So I'm going to take my yellow yarn here, and I'm just going to slip this on like that, and just make sure it's tight. So I'm just going to slip on my yellow yarn, and then I'm just going to flip my work. And now I'm just going to run single crochets along this bottom here. I'm just going to run some single crochets around the bottom, and then we're going to go up the sides and all the way around. So I'm going to just crochet over this so it's not there. So I'm just going to go in and do some single crochets all the way around. Okay, so now once we come along the corner here, I'm going to do 3 single crochets in the corner so that we have a nice little turn. So I'm just going to go with 1, 2, 3. So it looks something like that. And then I'm just going to continue along the side here. We're just going to crochet into the side of this single crochet stitch there. And then I'm just going to work my way up the side of the top here. And then again, once I get to this corner, I'm going to do another 3 single crochets in the corner. So 1, 2, 3. Looks something like that. And then we're just going to turn and continue up this side as well. And now we've reached the inner corner. For the inner corners, we don't have to do anything special. We're just going to keep single crocheting kind of in the stitches. It can be a little hard to find these side stitches, but just kind of crochet evenly. And then once we get that little side piece done, it's a little bit easier to crochet up the side of the cup. So we're just going to do that. Alright, so once I'm at the center of the cup on the top, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to be doing the chains for our straps now. So I'm going to be doing 180 chains. I found that that's just the best that works for me in a size large. But of course, if you have slightly different measurements, you will want to kind of extend the chains based on how much you need, how much you want to corset, and how much you want to have left over to tie around or whatever. But I find 180 to 200 tends to work really well for a size large. And of course, in the pattern there'll be other recommendations for different sizes. So we're just going to start doing the chains. Okay, so now that we have our 180 chains done, it's going to be very long, but we're going to go ahead now and we're going to take our hook, and on the ends we're just going to start single crocheting all the way down this chain until we get back to the end of the top. So I'm just going to go into the first stitch and start a single crochet. And then we're just going to single crochet all the way down. Okay, so I finished single crocheting down the strap. If your tension's a little weird like mine, it might be a little curly, but it's fine, it'll stretch out over time. Now we're just going to go ahead. This should be where we're at now once you finish that. And we're just going to continue single crocheting down to the center of the V, and then I'll show you guys what we do there. So I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet in that same top stitch where our strap began. Just do a single crochet. Then I'm going to continue single crocheting down. Alright, so now once I get down to this last stitch in the V between the two cups, I'm going to go ahead and take my hook and I'm just going to go into the first stitch on the right side. And then I'm also going to go through the first stitch on the left side just to connect these two. And I'm going to just do a single crochet. That way we kind of connect these two in like the same kind of V pattern as well. And now I'm just going to continue doing single crochets up the other side of this cup here. Alright, I'm going to stop again at the top of this cup and we're going to go and do our 180 chains again and then single crochet back down the side. Alright, now once I'm back around to this corner, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets in the same stitch as our first one. So it's going to look like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and in our first stitch, I'm going to do a slip stitch. And now this is optional, but I'm going to do it just to finish it off. I'm going to put a scallop stitch along the bottom edge. Okay, so once we get to this side, after you chain 2, once you chain 2, you're going to go ahead and skip this first space here. And we're going to do a double crochet into our second space. And then I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. And then in that same stitch, I'm going to do another double crochet. And this is going to create our V stitches. This is going to be the foundation for our scallops. So you should see a little V there. So now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to skip 2 stitches. And we're going to double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. And that'll create our V. So you should see like these 2 little V's. So again, I'm going to skip 2 stitches. In the third stitch, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And I'm just going to continue this pattern all the way across to the end of our bottom. Once you get to the last stitch, you're just going to end it with 1 double crochet in the last stitch. We're not going to do another V. So for our next row, in our next row, we're going to do the scallops. So you're just going to want to turn your work. And I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet into this first stitch here. And now we're going to be working inside of our V's. So inside this first V here, I'm going to be doing a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, another half double crochet, and a single crochet. And that's going to be one of our first scallop stitches. And And then in the next V here, you can see we're going to do the same thing. So single crochet, half double crochet, a double crochet, another half double crochet, and then finally a single crochet. And this should look like that, and we're just going to continue all the way across. Now once we get to this last piece here, where we have like 2 at the corner, we're just going to go into our last V, and again we're going to do the single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, and a single crochet just to complete our final shell. And then in the corner here, I'm just going to do a slip stitch to kind of finish everything off. And since we have like that extra double crochet at the end there, it'll just help it finish everything off. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and trim and fasten off. And then I think that's the only loose end I have, so I'm just going to weave this end in really fast. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. And we have our straps here. So I'm just going to take my 2 sides and fold them in half here. And then I'm going to start with my first strap, and I'm going to start with my strap that's on the right side, and we're going to bring it over to the left side, and I'm just going to loop it through this corner of the granny square, and just kind of leave yourself a little bit of extra space like for a sleeve so you can get into the top. But I'm going to grab the left side and bring it over to the right, and again just stick it into that corner piece here, and just pull it, leaving yourself a little bit of arm space so you can get the top on. And now I'm going to go into like the center of the square, so I'm taking the string on the right now, and I'm going to go into just one of these like center pieces here. So I'm going to take this one now, and I'm just going to go kind of into the center, just kind of find the center of this square, and I'm just going to thread through that. And I'll pull that one a little bit tighter. And then on this side, we're going to go through kind of the same stitch on the other square, kind of somewhere in the center. Okay. And then I'm going to go with my right side again, and we're going to go into the bottom corner of our granny square, lace that through, and we're going to take the other side, and again in the corner of the square, lace that through. And then I'm going to do it once more kind of in these little spaces at the bottom where our little shell pieces are. So I'm taking the right one, bringing that through the left, and I'm taking the left one, and I'm just going to bring that through the right space. There we go. Now our top is laced up. You can go ahead and just tie like a knot or a bow or whatever. But there we go. Top is all done.